Hello, everyone. Hello and good morning. Hello, GCO T7T. Drop some know-how on us, Jeffy. Greg M. Keys, thank you. I hope to do exactly that. Akara-kun, hello, and Haley Nichelle, hello. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Thank you for joining me this morning. At least it's morning here, and so far so good. It's actually been a really nice morning. It was really crisp. Went out for a run this morning, and so that was cool. I've been having like some fatigue things. Like it's a really weird thing. I haven't had like a cold or something like that, but like my fatigue levels and my recoveries have been like not on par with what I typically expect. And so I've been running really sporadically. Went out this morning, did a little shorter run, which was like really short, but felt much better. So, with any luck, that is looking good. But that's not why we're here, is it? Though I'd be happy to talk about running if you like, or rock climbing, or backpacking. Those are fun things to do. Done a bit of big stuff, like big walls and things like that, but not any multi-day stuff and not in a long time. But that's fun too. At any rate, we're here to talk about singing, and especially I found two pretty cool comments / questions when I was looking through the comments yesterday. And I just thought, these are really great, and I think very kind of universally applicable. Like, get questioned about this sort of stuff all the time. And I thought, I should talk about these in a live event. I used to do these questions from comments videos, and I haven't done those in a long time, just because, this year I've been doing all the series, which has been really fun, and people seem to enjoy. So that's where that's at. But let's not dilly-dally anymore. Let me get over to the questions here if I can find them. I really should have put a hotkey up for that app, but such is life. First one. Okay. Am I correct in thinking voce piana intesta requires both the attention to... Okay, so first let's I'm going to break this up a little bit here. Am I correct in thinking voce piana intesta, the sound of head voice... No, geez. The sound of chest voice in head voice. The sound of chest voice in head voice. This is commonly referred to as mixed voice. Some people say that they're blending their chest voice into their head voice. It gets talked about in a lot of different ways. I don't use those other terms deliberately because, generally speaking, when I say head voice, people have a preconceived notion of what that means. And frequently, now I don't know, I can't know if it's right or wrong, right? Because when I make a video, I don't know who watches it. I don't know if anyone's going to watch it. I certainly hope that people watch it. That is, of course, the point. But I don't know who's watching it. I don't know what they're thinking. I don't know what they've been taught in the past. And when I started the channel, I started using all of the terms that I was seeing in my textbooks because, one, I didn't know what they meant when I first read them. And then in the process of learning what they meant, I realized how I had gone wrong. And so I'm hoping to help in that way. I realize that it presents a certain barrier of entry, but considering that you're watching me on YouTube, you are in fact already sitting in front of a supercomputer to some degree, or a tablet or something, which is effectively a supercomputer too, and has access to the entirety of the world's knowledge. So it's a quick Google search away, voce piana intesta. Anyways, the sound of chest voice in head voice. I can see that someone popped up with a comment there. Yeah, now, so okay, let's not jump to that conclusion. It is, except that if you talk about mixed voice, that also gets used to mean different things. And this is another reason why I use those technical terms, because if you say mixed voice to one person, it'll mean one thing. If you say mixed voice to another person, it'll mean another thing. If you say, head voice to one person, it means one thing, blah, blah. We could go on and on like this. And here, check this out. Let's talk briefly by way of hoping to generate some understanding about this and why I struggle with these terms from a teaching perspective. Now, if it works for you, cool, but a lot of people struggle because they think that they're mixed voice. Let's talk about a tenor, okay? So a tenor range vocalist is going to be entering their cricothyroid dominant singing voice, their head voice, if you like, somewhere north of F4. So anywhere up above here to about here, where my fingers are. So you got F4 here, and that's B4. That's going to be their cricothyroid dominant singing voice. Some people would like to call that their mixed voice. You can have cricothyroid dominant and not be singing voce, piana, intesta. You can have a mixed voice and not sing voce, piana, intesta. Voce, piana, intesta is a specific way of balancing your voice in this register. But here's the problem. If you say mixed voice, you say, well, and if I say, well, how do you define that? And you say, well, I'm blending my head voice and chest voice. Okay, then it has to extend to here. Because this tenor starts their primo passaggio here. And between here and here, they are balancing and reconciling the differences in balance of the vocal fold so they get a smooth transition. They're blending their chest voices and head voices. Okay, well, that's fine. Then it goes here. But no more than that, you say. It's only when the cricothyroid muscles and the thyroarytenoid muscles are like working together. Oh, well, in that case, then we have to extend it to here. Because, in fact, the cricothyroid muscles, though far from dominant in this tenor, are in fact active as low as G3. And all of a sudden, these terms mean nothing because it's so vague and over such a vast amount of range. And whether you like it or not, even a perfect fifth in a vocalist nearly always incorporates some registration event. There's always some configuration change that's happening. Again, taking our tenor by way of example, let's say we're here in this comfortable range. Well, that's where the cricothyroid muscles typically will begin to have a bit of activity. So there's a bit of a change there. Okay, well, what about this perfect fifth here? Well, their primo passaggio is here. Well, what about this perfect fifth here? Well, now they've got their primo passaggio and they're getting to the secondo passaggio. I could go on and on. All right? If you just say head voice, in my opinion, it is an oversimplification of what is happening in the voice. And I've just talked about the tenor. Whatever Fach you have, whatever vocal range you are, you've got just as many registration events as the one I've just detailed here. They'll just be in different places. So, if you're a mezzo, then there's someplace other than where I showed you here for the tenor, so on and so forth. So that's why voce, piana, intesta. That's why I went to that. Let's see if I've upset anybody. Staple earlier. That's really cool. Hello. Is it by adding moaning feel at your bridge register while singing? Will it make it easier to do mixed voice? Maybe. But I got to get back to that. I've really got to get back to that question that came in. Major concentration of voice performance. I currently take choir class and a tenor. Sing quietly. Caught a cold. It's been 9 days. Oh gosh, that's terrible. Okay, I'll come back to this. I got to get back to that question. Let's get back to this question here. Okay, so hopefully I've helped there. And apologies if I've upset anybody. But kind of sorry, not sorry, right? Because it is in I am trying to help. I am absolutely trying to help. And I realize like learning to understand this stuff poses a challenge that perhaps you don't want to undertake, but it really isn't that hard. And if you want to make the most of your voice, generating a little bit of understanding is only going to help. It's kind of like reading music. You know, it doesn't take a ton of effort to get it done. Boils with attention to the vocal fold muscles and more deliberate placement in the resonant part of the face. Maybe what I am thinking of as resonance placement really is just vocal fold control. You put your finger on it. As a newbie to this, it feels like I need to over-exaggerate my resonance up top to give it the same edge I have below. That's how it sounds in my head anyway, to seem more even to the listener. Am I in the neighborhood or on the wrong branch of thinking? No. When you said that thinking of it as resonance is about controlling the vocal folds, that made me feel so much better. I have to admit, when I first read your question, I didn't see that. I skimmed it too quickly, and I didn't see that, and I was concerned about this question. Now, I shall rest easy tonight, because you already know the answer. When we talk about placement, this is why you don't hear me talking about placement on the channel. Maybe you may have noticed that. Except there's a few videos where I'm doing an exercise where we're exaggerating something, and then I'll talk about it. But generally, you don't hear me talk about placement, and that is because there are no generalities to it. I can't tell you generically, put it in the front, any more than I can say put it in the back or the crown of your head. It all depends on the vocalist in question, their specific traits. For a lot of vocalists, there are similarities, and so these ideas about placement have become accepted as good advice or common aspects of vocal technique. And if we think about the law of averages, it's quite likely that it will work for you, at least some of the time. But those directives are specific to the individual. You must think about them as being specific to the individual. You can try them and see if it works for you. And if it does, good. But if it doesn't, that doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or whatever. It just means that you're using your voice a little differently than for someone to whom that advice would be beneficial. And so you've got to try something else. So I didn't grab the user ID. I never grab the user IDs for these people because I never assume they want to be identified in these events. But yeah, you're on the right track here. You are, in fact, by thinking about it as placement, you're adjusting the configuration of the vocal fold. You are generally speaking, adjusting the adduction, how firmly or how loosely it is adducting. This is working in conjunction with elongation, and it is all supported by your subglottic air pressure, your support. All of that works together to make a consistent transition so that you can sing voce, piana, intesta. Each vowel will be different too. So you have to find your way with each of the various vowels. And as for the sound in your head, record yourself. Not every day, just maybe once a fortnight, every 2 weeks, and then have a listen and see what you're hearing. The sound in your head will be very different from what we hear outside. You've got bone conductivity, and like your ear stuff is all in there, and all the soft tissue resonance. Like none of that. We don't hear all of that directly the way that you do. You hear both what's coming out of your mouth, and you also hear the internal experience. So record yourself and listen back, and hopefully that will help. But great question. Really great question. Okay. I had another question that I got as well. All right. Might you be able to post anything on how to rehabilitate head voice following a cough? Ugh, this is terrible. And actually, there was someone in the comments, I wonder if it's the same person, was talking about that. Or perhaps exercises for reducing breathiness, improving chord closure. My chest voice is fine, and they said between the C5 and A5 range for mezzos. My chest voice is fine, but man, as soon as I try to sing high, it's breathy, breathy, breathy. Okay, so okay, 2 questions. Here we go. One, if you've been sick, you can I mean, just stick to a comfortable range of your voice. As you begin, take your time. You might do shorter sessions, but more frequently. So like do 5 minutes and then take a break for half an hour and then do 5 minutes and blah, 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 and just see how you go. As a general rule of thumb, if you've had a lot if you've been coughing a lot, and you've had a lot of vocal fold irritation, and that irritation resulted in you not being able to vocalize over a registration event, and you still cannot vocalize over the registration event, then you need to still take rest. I don't make the rules. I just follow them and advise. Think about it this way. If the vocal folds are so inflamed and irritated that you can't make a good registration event and you force it, then all you're doing is training. You're just training for habits that aren't going to serve you once you're healthy and back up to form. You're not like extra lifting and power lifting and you're going to be like super strong or something like that. You're just learning poor configuration and you're using more muscle control than is required to force the vocal folds to adduct. And then when you then are well again, you'll be working towards that habit and you're going to have to somehow work your way around it. You're just stalling is the word that comes to my mind, but it could be worse than that because you could end up just prolonging your recovery. Prolonging the recovery would be like the least problem with this. I think a bigger issue is you're prolonging the period of time that you might not have balance in your singing voice, which sounds like you're also struggling with because you're talking about breathiness between C5 and A5. So I haven't. I was like, wow, that sounded like a minor seventh, but I thought I was playing an octave. There we go. Let me see what I've got here. Where's the camera? There we are. Okay, so that's C5. Sorry, it's a bit bright this morning. And then A5 is just out of the shot there over here. And the interesting thing about this question, if I can get back to it here. The interesting thing about this question is they say that their chest voice is fine. As soon as they try to sing high, it's breathy, which suggests to me that you're not making good registration events. I believe they said they're a mezzos and sopranos. So this is F4. This is the secondo passaggio for a sort of tenor, lower tenor. This would be the primo passaggio for a mezzo. If you are a mezzo and you're not making the transition from chest voice to your lower middle voice here, then you are forestalling it. You're pushing your chest voice higher. You're stretching that. Stretching's a bad word. You're forcing the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice to continue to function when range-wise you would naturally be in your middle voice. You have another registration event about here, B flat 4, that is your middle voice registration event. You have another registration event here at E flat 5. This is the secondo passaggio for the mezzo soprano, generally speaking. None of us are, there's going to be some people that are going to be exactly on the mark, but most of us are like generally in that area. I always say that I'm between an F4 and an F sharp 4 because it doesn't really feel like F4 is where it should be for me, and F sharp 4 doesn't feel like it either. So I always say I'm sandwiched in between the two. I also say that we're not built to Western tonal music standards. We're built to our own standards, and you are perfect just as you are. So if it's E flat plus or minus, well, that is you, and it's good to know that. Anyway, so if you're not honoring those registration events, then and it's interesting that you say around C5, because if you have ignored and not done the registration event here, then as you get above that point, your vocal folds aren't going to be able to sustain the thyroarytenoid dominant singing voice, and it's going to split them in order to give you the pitch. Now, on the one hand, it's good that you're hearing those pitches and your voice is trying to give it to you. On the other hand, if you want to have a consistent sound, the key for you is to practice the primo passaggio and practice the transitions through your middle voice registration event. That will facilitate a better registration event here. And as everything balances out, then you can have voce piana intesta, the sound of chest voice in head voice, and a lovely extended range, probably out to somewhere in the vicinity of C6, I should expect. Though that's not going to happen like tomorrow, probably. These things generally take some time and practice. So, you have to have patience. We have to, and discipline in our practice. If that's truly what you wish to have, then it will be worth the investment in time and technique and understanding to achieve it. But that's probably what's happening. Without hearing you, it's hard for me to say specifically. But that's what it kind of sounds like to me. So let me pop over to the comments here and see what's going on. And I do hope that helps. What do we got here? I want to see if I can find McKnight's second comment. There we are. Find it easy to sing well loud, but singing quietly is always hard. Oh, this is okay. So, okay, I hope you're still there, McKnight. Great question. My old teacher used to always say that singing softly was far harder because you have to maintain the same kind of subglottic air pressure that you would if you were singing loud, but you have to titrate the flow of air. And you can only do so much for a given range of your voice. So in other words, if you're here, the lowest, the quietest you can sing, the pianissimo here, will be different than the pianissimo here, assuming that we want them to sound consistent, if we want to have the consistent sound. If sound consistency is not a part of the equation, we don't have to worry about that, well, then we get a bit more flexibility. But in general, focus on your engagement, maintain it as if you were singing at a higher volume, but imagine I'm gonna say something that is a description of my physical experience. It may not relate to you. Descriptions of physical experiences, like placement, are unique to the individual. So when I'm doing that, I almost feel like I'm hovering. It's like I'm vibrating instead of actually emitting anything. And that is the physical sensation. And I suppose that's a lot of muscle control into my expansion of my rib cage and my core body muscles, but also in keeping that firm and consistent while still moving air over the vocal fold so that I'm creating pitch. Okay, yeah, happily enough here for Haley Michelle, I went over all those registration events, and hopefully that helps. Paolo, baritone, singing since I'm 16, now 27, but I know I'm not doing something right. When I sing with my deep voice, I get exhausted. Hard to say, Paolo. Palomia, 1161, I should say. If you're still there, how are you getting exhausted? I've got a few more minutes here. I wasn't sure how long I was going to go this morning, and I do have lessons today, but how are you getting exhausted? What's getting exhausted? Tell me a bit more. If I can help out, I will. I have some ideas, but I'd rather, if you're still there, tell me what's going on. Greg M. Keys says, that was me. Thanks so much for spending so much time thinking that through. You're very welcome. My pleasure. McKnight, 3 of 3. Also, I typically have this problem when hitting higher notes. Yeah. Precise. Okay, right. So, yes. This is a really weird analogy, but boy, I think about it all the time. I'm not sure where you are. 5:55 a.m. in Australia. Miss Veritastis 84, 54. Good morning to you. Yikes. Palomia is still here too. Yeah, so Palomio, give me more. Okay. McKnight. Right. I don't know where any of you are, right? Like I have no way of knowing unless you tell me. I'm not asking you to tell me. But in America, we have this thing called NASCAR, which is interesting if I'm generous. I mean, I used to like it quite a lot, and then I don't know, it's kind of silly. But basically they're just driving in an oval. Like they get these cars and they drive around in an oval for quite a while. And that's what they do. And I saw a program, I'm sure you can find it online, where you can go and you can learn to drive like in NASCAR. And in the advertisement, they were talking about how they get you started. And they're like, well, first, you drive around the track, just driving the track, and just take it easy, nothing crazy. And then, you go a little faster, and so like on the straightaways, you get down by the edge there. But then, like as you go around the embankments on these things are insane. They're like so steep, right? Like as you come into the corner, like you go a little further up because you go a little faster, so you can go higher up the embankment, and then you come back down to the straightaway, and as you go and you get more and more familiar with it, and you gain more speed and you gain more confidence, you go higher and higher up those walls. Where if you were going that high up the wall, but you were only going as fast as you were down when you were first getting started at the bottom, it wouldn't work. And our voices are kind of like that in a way. I always think about that. When we are moving up in our range, the baseline level of energy continues to increase to maintain consistent sound. So pianissimo, let's say you're talking about me, okay? Tenor. Let's talk about A4. Pianissimo at A4, and you want it to sound like voce, piana, intesta, like my chest voice, it's gonna be loud. I'll have like soft, cuddly vibes. I'll like sculpt it in ways that round the consonants so it's a softer presentation, but the actual physical volume to produce that will be high. If I don't have to match, then I can do all kinds of things to actually change the physical volume of it. That's fine too. This isn't like a right or wrong thing here. It's what is the mission? Like, what are we trying to do? What do I have to do? And if it's all about being consistent, then pianissimo at A4 is different than pianissimo at A3. God, there was another analogy that I was going to deploy. I was thinking about it while I was talking about the race car analogy, and now I've lost my train of thought here. What was it? Maybe I'll think of it in a second. The race car analogy is really the one that I like to deploy at that point. Let me talk about what Palomia 1161 here. Was 1173 would have been really cool. Like the leveling amplifier. It's like when I sing, I feel comfortable, but somehow I clear a lot of my voice. I always warm up before singing, but then I kind of lose it. Well, okay, so you're from Guatemala. Okay, 1 p.m. All right, not cool. That's cool. So here's the thing, Palomia. I sort of want to make you an honorary 1176. But anyways, 1161. That my initial thought was something's going on with your arpeggio breath management practice. That is where I would start. I always sort of inwardly shudder when I say that. But because it's like every voice teacher on the planet is like, oh, dude, check in your breathing. Except there's like a whole school of thought that's like, oh, it doesn't matter at all, which I'm not really on board with. But here's the thing. Apagio breath management. Shirley Emmons. Start there. See what you can find that Shirley Emmons has written. The links, I used to have this link to a page that she did, which was so good. But that link is dead now, so I don't know where the rest of the stuff's gone. But Shirley Emmons, SHIRLEEEMMONS, Apagio, APPOGGIO, breath management. That is the stuff. That is what changed everything for me. So that's where I would start. Miss Veritatis 8454, participating in choir, traditional Gregorian chant mass with motets for 10 years. Now your warm-ups have been invaluable. Thank you for that. Christmas mass soprano, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for popping in today. Thank you for singing along with me here on the channel. It is my pleasure to serve. So, and I'm glad that the work here is serving you well. Wonderful. Very low mic. Really? Thank you for letting me know. I've got plenty of gain. Just let me know. I'll just turn this up here a little bit. Hopefully that will help some. Yeah, please, anybody, like at any time, you can always let me know if you can't hear me or something like that. I got plenty of gain. Plenty of gain. Let's see here. Found you at the beginning. This is Jared Matson, 1332. Found you at the beginning of the year and have been using your tenor warm-ups. They've been a game changer when it came to singing lead in my musicals. Excellent. Excellent. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you for singing along. Thank you for using the channel. That's what we're here for. So happy to serve. Thank you again. My pleasure. Greetings, Jürgen. Victoria Mass and stuff like Mozart. Lovely, 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 lovely. Thanks a lot. We'll keep it in mind. Awesome, Paulo. Right, okay. Thank you for that analogy. So essentially the tone of the pianist on a lower note will be different from... Yes. Precisely. Precisely. Exactly. All right. Seems like things have cooled down, so I'm going to wish you a fond farewell. It is good for me not to... I do love these things, but a couple years ago, I had some real issues. And I ended up, just because of the amount that I teach and talk, I ended up with a vocal edema, which is like swelling on one side of my vocal folds. And so I have to really keep in mind how long I do these sorts of events for. So I'm going to say thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Love the questions. I am already considering presents for kids, relatives, upcoming holidays. It's lovely, Jürgen. Will you include links for us to support your channel like Amazon? Yeah, actually, I think it's in the description. I think the affiliate links are in the description. I really need to update like the one link thing. You can use like Amazon one link. But there are a bunch of different countries, and I'll try to get the one link thing sorted out at some point. I just end up doing other stuff, basically. Anyways, Evan Fortage 999. Yeah, and you can always watch the replay. It's as soon as I quit the stream, it'll like be available for viewing on YouTube. Really, really good questions that we got kicked off with today, and lovely questions in the chat. Thanks. Really, really, truly, thank you, everyone. I had a lovely time. Always wonderful to get to chat with you. Have a great day. We'll talk again soon. Bye.